So once again, welcome to Australia.
Thank you.
Okay, so Johnny English is a goof on spy characters. Were you a fan of spy movies when you were growing up?
Yeah, I was. I mean, I think I got to all the Bonds and religiously, but also the kind of the tougher ones too. You know, all the Carrie movies are really interesting. While we were making this film in England, I was sharing the premises with pre-production with Tinker Tailor, which they've just finished making, as you know, coming out soon, and so we felt we had the monopoly on spies at the time.
Yeah.
Kind of wanted Rowan to be in the back of their film somewhere, and maybe we'd have nicked Gary Oldman, but you know, I've always loved them, and it's a great genre to be playing off.
Yeah.
Though we're quite keen that it wasn't actually sort of too pastiche-y, you know what I mean? In a way, one of the things I was trying to do on this film was to create perhaps a slightly more authentic world of espionage. Yeah. So, you know, Craig wouldn't have looked out of place in it.
Well, that's the thing I found. The strength of it was that it is a straight-ahead espionage movie, but with very romantic scenes.
Exactly. Yeah. And that, in a way, it's a bit like you could look at most scenes and think, you know, the wheelchair scene, for example, the wheelchair chase. The plan is to try and do it like it's a genuine, traditional car chase. Yeah. The difference being one thing, that it's Rowan in a wheelchair, you know, and I think so. Getting the balance of the comedy and the thriller became the real challenge, I think.
And so this is the first time you've delved into action territory. How did you approach the genre? What was your kind of mission statement, if you would?
Well, it was to take it dead straight, to look for, to restrain ourselves from going for an obvious joke unless it was the big joke. Because I think it's quite a difficult it's quite a difficult character to sustain as a continual klutz. So what I want to do is make a world where actually he's not always cocking up, and he believed in it, and the action itself really has a certain kind of stature to it and a kind of scale. So we treated it pretty damn seriously, and had a brilliant crew. You know, a great designer who I don't think would know a small room. Everything is vast and gives you great depth, and with the action, you know, one's just taking it, using terrific stunt coordinator and all these characters, and it's about taking the time to do it. It's great to have a budget which allows you to really do it properly.
I think my favourite scene in the film was the one where you essentially took the mickey out of that chase scene in Casino Royale.
Oh yes.
And was that just a case of you watching Casino Royale and saying to yourself, why don't you just use the ladder, or why don't you just use the elevator and just put that into this movie?
Well, kind of. I mean, it's got other little references. There's a bit of Bourne in that one as well. Yeah. In a way, a lot of it is about having the rigour, and Rona was particularly clear on that sequence, where we had a whole bag of gags, as it were. Yeah. And actually, what he was keen to do was to make it really one idea, and so the idea being, actually, he's taken something to bed, and he may be old, but he does have wisdom. So let's find another way around this problem. You know, you're going to get on the scaffolding. I'll take the lift. I'll use the ladder. You know, and that was nearly always our guiding principle to various sequences, to find what the, if you like, what the credible choice would be for the character, and to restrain yourself, because we had some quite good jokes. For example, on the rooftop, he had a whole sequence where he was tugging on wires to try and stop him, and as he pulled on one wire, a sort of satellite dish would fall down behind, and it was, but actually it didn't fit with the principle of the joke, which is that in this case he's getting it right. You know, this guy may be an amazing free runner, and you know, and Johnny's twice his age, but actually Johnny will get him. You know, Johnny, it's Robo Johnny. You know, so kind of getting that, deciding on those. So within every action sequence, you're looking for a conceit to glue the whole thing together, and it was nearly always about, here's a man who really isn't a fool, but he's not quite as good as he'd like to be. You know, and that little margin between his intention and his execution is where you can hopefully find some of the comedy.
You spoke about you guys had a big bag full of different tricks, and you talked about before how the spy genre just opens itself up to being spoofed in the way that it does.
It does.
Were there any things that you really wanted to put in the film, but just like the satellite example you gave, but just didn't really seem to fit in there with other things as well?
Yeah, there were. I mean, for example, I don't know if you saw to the very end of the film, credits even.
Right.
Did you see the credits? Well, for example, there's a wonderful scene at the end of the credits, which is a secret for those who don't stay.
Yeah, so to stay.
You should stay, yeah, because there's a scene which we shot, and it's Rowan preparing a meal for Rosamund's character, and it's a beautiful bit of performance by him, and it's a sweet little scene, and we tested it even, and it tested pretty well, but in the end, we really felt that it wasn't right for the rhythm of the piece. You know, it sort of had, it felt like a sketch, and it works as a sketch. You know, there it is on its own at the end in the credits, and it's funny. So there were, and there's going to be quite a few DVD extras because we shot a few little scenes where in the end we had to sacrifice them for the benefit of the sort of shape of the overall piece. So yeah, there are quite a few. Even on the roof, for example, there's another one where we had, what was it, chewing gum, Semtex chewing gum, and the idea is you chew it and then after 10 seconds it blows up, and so we had this guy when he puts it on the door that he's meant to be going through, and realizes it's still on his finger. So there's a whole thing like that. And then he throws it over the edge, gets away with it, and you cut to downstairs and it blows something. So they're quite protracted gags, but actually in the run of that, and with the simplicity of the principle that I was talking about earlier in terms of him not getting it wrong, you have to say goodbye to some of those.
Yeah. Filming in front of Buckingham Palace. Yeah. Talk me through the logistics of filming a scene in front of what has to be one of the most prestigious buildings in the whole world.
Well, it was an extraordinary thing because when we were preparing for that scene and doing the recce's, I wasn't happy with the suggested locations. We weren't getting. It wasn't iconic enough, and so the locations guy was saying, so what is it you really need? You know, well, I said basically, you've got to feel it's on this sort of stage, sort of feeling of public stage, but also that he gets away. He needs a kind of arch. He needs it like art, like the Imperial, you know, at the end of Buckingham Palace. I said something like, why don't you just ask the question? We'll never get that. He said, just ask. You know, we do have Rowan there, and so he went to ask, and they said, get a couple of hours, maybe. So that won't do. So they kept going, and I think basically, you know, he is probably held in such great esteem that they gave us a whole bloody day, and it was a treat. And rumour has it that she was watching from the window.
I like to see what she'll think of at the end scene when.
I know he was right on there for a knighthood until he did that. What a shame.
Working with someone like Rowan Atkinson, who's considered a comedy god and for good reason. When you're walking into the room and meeting him and working with him, what's your philosophy in working with someone like such a esteemed talent? Yeah,
well, he's an extremely polite, courteous man. I mean, absolute quintessential English man, you know, and very, very intelligent and analytical. So, you know, all our discussions and conversations were nearly always very, very amiable, and he's extremely specific in what he's trying to get. And so, yes, when you meet him first of all, it's quite, because that face is, you think we don't have many faces like this. It's almost a Chaplin thing that I've been all around the world on these different locations, and you know, you can't believe who knows been. So it just has that extraordinary element of recognition, and it takes a moment to get past that. But once you're there, he's extremely collaborative, and in some ways, I think, you know, he feels, because he's not come out of sketches and he's come out of certain kind of comedy, but he's got real gifts as an actor. And but there's probably a little insecurity about that because he's not, in some ways, really been tried and tested. He played Fagin on stage in Oliver the last couple of years, I think, and was extremely good. But on the whole, he's meant to do what he's meant to do. People expect him to do that, and actually he can do a hell of a lot more. So it was quite exciting just seeing him seeing him respond to the production as it was growing and trying to accumulate real caliber cast that would put him on his mettle, but also be a great support to him.
Yeah, you yourself are an actor before you went into directing. What does that experience as being an actor bring to directing actors?
I think it brings quite a lot in terms of understanding what you have to go through.
Yeah.
And a lot of directing actors is about really allowing them to feel comfortable and understanding what they're going through sufficiently that you can help them to get to the place where they can do their work best. And you know, actors are so different. Some you don't want to touch at all because they're going right in the right direction, and you don't want to disturb it, and other people need the discussion and analysis, and it's great to be able to have done that, and so you can talk the language with them and understand what they need. And you know, I did quite a lot of mainly theatre, but then when I did film, some of it I found quite intimidating, quite difficult, and people are expecting certain things of you, and so to at least have had that experience, I think does give you a kind of, and I think they often feel reassured too, that there's a kind of empathy. But at the same time, you know, the more I've done of late, I think I ought to start treating them like cattle. No, there is a way in which some actors really like, particularly if you start doing action work, you know, basically where's my mark, and you know,
where do I go?
Where's the window I'm jumping out of, and so it's not always useful, but there are times when it's I feel like it, and for certain actors it does help them.
Well, thank you. Yeah, one more last one.
They say acting on a film at times can be tedious in between takes. Is there such a thing as a tedious set when Rowan Atkinson is around?
No, there isn't. I mean, it's not a barrel of laughs, because he's not frittering his energy around. He's enormously focused at what he's trying to do, and so it tends to be it tends to be rather polite and quiet set, thoughtful, and there'll be moments of great hilarity, but few. You know, so it's never boring because it's always working. He's always trying to push it, take it one bit further, or looking for something, which the rest of us are kind of puzzled by. What's he doing now? And then he realizes, oh, that's where he's trying to go. My job is sometimes to help him do that, or give him space to do that, or whatever it might be. But no, it's in fact, when there were moments, the moments more with the other cast. So, for example, the chair scene, when the chair's going up and down at the end of the first take, the cast completely erupted into hysterics. I mean, they were just, because they'd had to play it straight. And Rome was quite taken aback because he kind of just wasn't expecting. They seemed to think that was funny. It was charming, but he, you know, because he's taking it with this enormous degree of sincerity and seriousness, to actually get that reaction was quite a shock to him.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time today.
Nice to chat with you.